You ever play a game that just feels like it's purposely trying to punish you just for simply playing it? I'm sure there are multiple games that come to mind when I speak of games dishing out punishment, but as of recently, the game that comes to mind for me is Resident Evil CODE Veronica, X to be exact. You see, I just finished this game over the holidays, and I gotta say, fuck this game. Like, holy shit, fuck this game. I don't know whether it's the bullshit boss battles or it's the hordes of normal enemies that take like forever to put down, but god damn did this game give me a run for my money. I was actually pretty close to just giving up. I really wanted to quit, but for whatever reason, maybe it's the moody and creepy atmosphere, the unnerving trek through a prison on a remote island, or maybe it's the solid and creative puzzles that kept me going. And you know what? I'm kind of glad I did, because after beating CODE Veronica, I found that regardless of the bullshit difficulty, the game has a charm to it. Released on the Sega Dreamcast in North America on February of the year 2000, and apparently according to Wikipedia, the game outsold Shenmue within its first week of releasing, which, is cool, I guess? Like, no offense to Shenmue, but, like, Resident Evil beating Shenmue in sales on the Dreamcast doesn't really sound like a big accomplishment to me. Well, I personally have some fond memories of the Dreamcast, even though I only owned like Sonic Adventures and a few demo discs. The Dreamcast wasn't some kind of golden console. In fact, it was the reason why Sega got out of the console race, as it did poorly in sales. Which, you know, in my opinion, kinda sucked, because the Dreamcast, while poorly marketed and it didn't go toe-to-toe well with the PlayStation 2, it did have some pretty good games. Shenmue, Sonic Adventure, Jet Set, Power Stone, and, well, of course, CODE Veronica. In fact, according to the Wikipedia list, which apparently is incomplete or something, according to this note, so it may or may not be accurate data. I mean, it is Wikipedia, so. But anyway, according to this list, CODE Veronica sold about 1.14 million copies worldwide, meaning it sold a little under compared to Shenmue, making CODE Veronica the 4th best-selling Dreamcast game. Now, full disclosure, I'm not reviewing the original Dreamcast version, I'm reviewing CODE Veronica X, and I'll be playing it on my PlayStation 5. From what I understand, the only difference between the PS2 and Dreamcast version is that CODE Veronica X has newer cutscenes, which I kinda found funny, as the added cutscenes don't seem to add anything that fix this somewhat messy story. I'll get more into that in my review later on. Anyway, let's get on with the review as we take a look at Resident Evil CODE Veronica X Dramatic. If there is one thing the Resident Evil knows how to do well, is allow the players to explore some pretty interesting environments. They allow us to explore a Scooby-Doo-esque mansion, a police station, and a lot of underground laboratories. Like a lot. There's a shit ton of underground laboratories, guys. How many laboratories does Umbrella need? Seriously. Although I will say that none of these locations will ever beat exploring that train in Resident Evil 0, in my opinion, of course. I don't know why, I really love this level so much. I don't know why, I just fucking do. While it's Snow Spencer's mansion, the game has you exploring an Umbrella facility located on an island called Rockford Island. Rockfort, something like that. It's some sort of made-up island near the Antarctics. The facility is owned by the Ashfords, who I'll be explaining a little later on. You can explore a prison, which honestly is more of a concentration camp that Umbrella puts their traitorous employees into if they, you know, do wrong against the company. You know what's weird is that I didn't realize that I would actually like exploring a prison section, but honestly, I kind of found myself digging how unnerving the atmosphere is. I mean, it's a muddy and wet concentration camp. Things are on fire for no reason. Well, there's a reason. And there's like a freaking guillotine. What's going on in this island? Other facilities include a private residence quarter, training facility, and even an underwater airport. Or something like that. I don't know how this works, but you get to ride a submarine to it, so that's kind of cool, I guess. There's also the Ashford's personal residence, which, Jesus Christ, what the hell is going on with this statue here? Can't tell if this is some sort of idol to be worshipped or some sort of overlarge voodoo doll. Very unnerving in here. Eventually you'll make your way to an Umbrella Antarctic base, which in my honest opinion was the most chilling environment in the game. Get it? Chilling? Because we're in the Antarctics? Huh? Come on, guys. The last environment you will explore is some kind of secret underground mansion that kinda looks like Spencer's mansion. Well, some rooms look similar. It's one part mansion and another part laboratory in some areas. Don't know why it looks like the Spencer's mansion, but okay. There's just a lot of different rooms to explore. Even if I'm in one location, it always feels like I'm in an entirely different facility. For example, some rooms in the training facility include rooms like a small lab, but then as you keep exploring, you'll eventually make your way to like a locker room and some shower rooms and a sauna, which is weird, I guess. Hey, I guess you gotta have some sort of luxury in a creepy ass place. Then when you head to the basement of this facility, it's like you're in a sewer level. Like, it's completely different. It's interesting. Rooms are very diverse in this game, and it makes exploring feel a bit unique and kind of exciting, especially when a room has like a pretty good puzzle. Then it's even more exciting, in my honest opinion. Exploring is one of my favorite things about the Resident Evil games, and I feel like the Resident Evil series kind of ruined open worlds for me. You see, I used to really love open worlds, but as I've gotten older, I kind of find open worlds to be a bit boring, as they usually are just littered with content that are underwhelming. With games like Resident Evil, I tend to enjoy how each location you explore feels somewhat meaningful, as there's things to discover like hidden weapons, items, and of course new pathways. CODE Veronica does not disappoint in that aspect, as I found exploring my environments to usually be somewhat rewarding, but there are issues with exploring. At times, some rooms do feel a bit underwhelming, and I kind of found exploring to be a bit linear, kind of like Resident Evil 3. I also found it sometimes hard to really soak in the atmosphere, because sometimes I feel like the game would downright discourage you from exploring off the beaten path, which, I mean, I guess that makes sense given that the game does want to give you a challenge, which isn't bad per se, of course, but holy hell, does this game like to just throw enemies at you in rooms that you just got done clearing. Enemies will sometimes just respond at what seems almost random. This isn't uncommon in games like Resident Evil 3, and I think sometimes 0 had this issue. I always preferred how they handled enemies respawning in the first Resident Evil remake. Enemies usually didn't just respawn out of thin air. When a room does want a new zombie to respawn in that area, they usually have the zombie come crashing through a window or breaking down a door from another room. But when you put zombies down in the first remake, you usually put them down. Well, you have to burn them first, or at least blow off their heads. But they usually never come back once they're permanently taken care of. Not in CODE Veronica. You clear a room and then come back to that room later on, and bam, more zombies will flood that room. I'm sure there's some logic to it, but having to re-clear a room a second time just seems like a waste of ammo. Some enemies, like these moth enemies, would just like respawn immediately after you leave the room and come back. Like immediately. Dude, screw these freaking moth enemies, like seriously. There are enemies that are located in this hallway down in the Antarctic base, but immediately when you enter the room, they will spray you with some kind of poison mist, and yeah, it will poison you. Oh god, then, when you're fighting them, they'll lay eggs on you, and a creature will hatch from those eggs, poisoning you. Because of course they do. Clearing this hallway does not guarantee you that these assholes are gone forever. With other zombies, you have to at least explore a bit further. It seems like you almost have to like complete different tasks in other rooms and then come back and oh hey, there they are. But for these moths, no, it's just like leave the room, come back, there they are. Bullshit. I kind of wonder though, maybe I missed a way on how to kill these guys. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Maybe these moths are just assholes. Because seriously, fuck this hallway, man. I also hate the whole poison effect gameplay. I mean, I've hated that stuff since I was a kid after playing Pokemon. Being poisoned is such an annoyance, and this game will poison you quite a bit. I mean, I don't recall any of the Resident Evil games being this annoying with poison enemies. I mean, you do get poisoned in other Resident Evil games, but I always felt like I was pretty good at avoiding that. In this game, no, can't avoid it. This game has way too many poison enemies. You got those freaking moths and their weird offsprings. You got spiders. Some bosses even have poison to them. And of course, there's those fucking purple hunters. Fuck these guys. It's like it takes forever to put them down. Oh yeah, I could waste the magnum ammo, but I don't want to. And right here is where my main issue with CODE Veronica lies. The thing about this game is that it is a brutal, I mean brutal, game. Which, I know, some people who are watching this are like, just get good. Shut up. I'm just joking around. Don't shut up. But seriously though, the game will punish you regardless of what you do. How you play, it will punish you. The issue with CODE Veronica is that it's really damn hard. Sometimes it feels like it's a walk in the park, other times it just throws an intense difficulty spike at you. Even normal zombies I feel like take like forever just to gun down, wasting almost like up to 10 bullets one zombie, which kinda sucks because your gun holds up to 15 right before you upgrade, and you tend to find up to 15 bullets per pack. I believe on normal difficulty in most Resident Evil games, it usually does take about 10 rounds, so it's nothing particularly unheard of for zombies to take a while to gun them down. But again, like I mentioned before, new zombies will eventually respond within a room that you just cleared for whatever reason, and given that this is a survival game, you do have to manage your resources, and that's kind of where the problem lies with CODE Veronica. The game's combat wants to be two different things. On one hand, it wants to be a slow-paced, strategizing survival game. On the other hand, it also wants to be this fast-paced action game, as sometimes zombies will just bum rush you and you find yourself being swarmed by 5, maybe 6 zombies all coming at you at once. And remember, each zombie could take up to 10 rounds to kill with a pistol. So if you're not careful, you can easily lose nearly all your bullets in one room. I know some of you are probably like, why not just use a shotgun, aim up, and then like take them all out, okay? You're right, I could do that. I could use a grenade launcher. Hell, I could use the fire arrows on them. But if I do that, I won't have enough ammunition for the bullshit boss battles that are probably around the corner. This game just has a balancing issue and it doesn't really work well. Not to mention, the game will actively punish you for just being prepared. I'm not even joking. If you're prepared, it will punish you. Look, I get a game punishing you for being unprepared. In fact, the first time I ever played CODE Veronica, I remember wasting a good amount of ammo on seemingly normal zombies, which kind of bit me in the ass because at one point you'll fight a tyrant in an airplane, and holy crap, this guy was tough. I should have known from this that this game was going to be bullshit because I kept dying after dying after dying just because of this one guy. Dude, I had to like YouTube how to beat this guy, like, and I generally hate using a walkthrough for a game. For this game, I had to use some walkthroughs just for the boss battles, not the puzzles, just the boss battles. I saw some strategies, like this guy was just like running in circles around him and then like hitting him 6 times with the cargo box. You see, this cargo box takes like a few seconds to recharge. So what you have to do is you have to hit him with the cargo box, run around him, listen for that beep, run back to the cargo box control, press it, hit him again, and repeat this process for like 6 times. Yeah, that doesn't work. At least it didn't work for me. It just, no. There's another strategy of running like corner to corner to corner while also, you know, hitting him 6 times with the box. That didn't work as well. So basically I beat this guy by combining all the strategies together and then also hitting him with some fire arrows and then hitting him with the cargo boxes. Eventually, somehow I won. I don't know how I won, but eventually I won. I was super excited too. I was like, yes, finally I beat the hardest boss in the game. I was wrong. That's not the hardest boss in the game. That's not the hardest part of this game. Holy shit, was I wrong. And it was satisfying because, you know, I came into this battle pretty prepared. Like, I knew what to expect after, you know, getting my ass handed to him over and over again. On this playthrough, I saved all my good ammo. I saved all the proper resources, but holy hell, that still wasn't enough. For this game will hit you with a shit ton of beginner's traps. Oh, what's that? You beat the first boss by coming in prepared with all your weapons? Well, clearly that's the winning strategy for the next boss, right? Wrong. Kind of. I mean, it's right in defeating him, but it's the wrong strategy. I'll explain. After defeating the Tyrant, I entered the Antarctic base with Claire, saving all my good resources up until I got to Nosferatu, who was the boss of this segment. Now at this point, I did get a sniper rifle, which means I had to aim ever so precisely in first person. I had to aim through this thick fog as he sprays poison gas at me. I had to shoot his chest bulge, or heart, in order to stun him, but I found myself actually wasting all the sniper rounds and not really defeating him right away. So what happens is I had to use all my other weapons like my grenade launcher and fire ammo, and honestly he took forever to defeat, so regardless of what I brought, didn't do the job so quickly. Although apparently though, Nosferatu will go down in a few hits with the sniper rifle if you just, don't suck at aiming. Now, if you played this game, you probably know where I'm going with this. You probably know what's gonna happen next, because after defeating Nosferatu, you'll end up playing Chris, like immediately after the boss battle. Now, what's bullshit about this is that Chris and Claire share the same weapons, meaning if you leave a weapon in the security box, Chris can use it. Yeah, I did not know this was a thing. I knew you can switch between the characters eventually, but I didn't know that they share the same weapons and security boxes. So what that means was that I gave all my weapons and health items to Claire, basically screwing me in the future. And when you start playing as Chris, you won't start out with a knife and a pistol. No grenade launcher, no fire arrows, a few health items, but not the same health items that I had in my inventory. I mean, you'll find health items luckily right away as Chris, but still. Honestly, fuck me for not knowing that this game was going to switch over to Chris right away at that exact second with like no warning at all. I kind of wish Chris and Claire played a little bit differently, honestly. Like, I was hoping Chris would at least have a better pistol than Claire or something. I'm reminded of Resident Evil 0, which made it so that Billy was stronger than Rebecca, meaning he could put down zombies with less hits, and even do stuff like move crates and stuff. Rebecca, on the other hand, had her own traits like being able to mix medicines and fitting into smaller spaces, given her petite size. Kind of wish Claire and Chris had something similar. I know CODE Veronica was made like way before Resident Evil 0, but I kind of wish that idea of two different playstyles was presented in this game. Dude, playing as Chris was such a grind too. Not only are the enemies harder during his segment, but you better be prepared to get screwed over like more than once. For example, Chris will start the game within the training facility and he'll make his way all the way to the Antarctic base. Now, the training facility is just littered with normal hunters and poisonous hunters. Not to mention, Wesker will send out these scouts that will scan the room and you have to like dodge these lasers. Otherwise, a hunter will just magically teleport to your location. Dude, these fucking scanners, man. So if you're out of ammo and you encounter one of these things, you better learn to bob and weave via tank controls. Otherwise, you're pretty much done for. So when I finally made it out of this training facility, I made the mistake of just bringing my pistol, thinking eventually I would run into a security box. But of course not. I don't know what I was thinking. So yeah, I had a pistol with pretty much no ammo. And when I made it to the Antarctic base, I encountered these tentacle monsters because yeah, of course there's tentacle monsters. Yeah, and they don't die easy because of course they don't. Luckily I had a save file I could just sort of load up, which was minutes before arriving to the Antarctic base. Okay, so little pro tip when playing Resident Evil, make sure you really space out your saves. Don't save in one file like a rookie. Make sure you have multiple save files because you will get fucked over, not just in this game, but in other Resident Evil games as well. That's just kind of a pro tip. I have this method that I like to call the Groundhog's Day method, where I would save once, scout up ahead to see what kind of enemies and threats there are, and if the area proves to be sort of overwhelming or I'm underprepared, I'll just kind of load up my Groundhog Day file and prepare for what I just witnessed so that I don't feel unprepared. So yeah, I ended up going back to the save file, and then when I got back to the Antarctic base, I brought my knife with me to fight that tentacle monster, which, yeah, that took forever. Fun. Very fun. Okay, now here's where I almost gave up completely. Here's where I told myself that this game might not actually be worth all this effort. At one point, Chris will eventually be reunited with Claire. You see, after escaping the Antarctic base, she was attacked by the tentacle monster, and Chris finds her all inside of a goo prison. Chris will then cut her down, which was actually kind of cool because the simple solution to get her down was just to equip the knife. So I thought that was kind of cool. She'll be poisoned, so you have to run around the Antarctic base looking for a cure. Thank God there's no time limit for this one, because holy hell would that suck. Once you get the serum for her, the tentacle monsters will come back and wreck up the place, so that ends up separating both Chris and Claire again. Now here's where the more bullshit part started to happen, as this is Claire's final crusade in the game. You'll start Claire's final segment with her injured, so naturally you'll have to patch her up and whatnot. You also have a security box right next to you and some herbs from the start. Now before giving Claire the serum, I knew I was gonna play her next. So when I was playing Chris, I did what I didn't do for Chris. I put all my weapons into the security box before giving Claire the serum, and when I got up to her segment and I saw the security box, I decided to ard myself to the fucking T. My strategy was to perform a sort of trade-off strategy, where before I play one character, I'll just give them all the weapons, and then do the same thing when I felt like I was gonna switch again. And yeah, this game punishes you for trying to be prepared. Let me dive into why I hated this Claire segment. You see, Claire was actually my favorite part of the game. I love her design, I love her character, and I loved most of her segments. But this last segment, holy shit, this was bullshit. Pure bullshit. Oh, by the way, there's no typewriters to save, so if you die during the segment, you pretty much have to restart over with, Claire being injured and whatnot, meaning you have to reload your gun, heal up, collect some stuff, and whatnot. So exploring this final segment, you come across probably the most bullshit puzzle in this game. You find this key card inside of a glass orb that falls out of this cannon, and when you find it, this giant crushing stone ends up smashing down to the ground. Now, the puzzle is kind of obvious, right? But the issue is that if you die, if you're too slow or something goes wrong, you have to start all the way over, meaning you have to reload, heal up, arm yourself, find the orb, don't die. To solve this puzzle, I had to pretty much run through the trap once, had it fall, run back as the stone was coming back up, open my inventory, and put the orb in the middle of the crushing area, and then she will automatically back up, and the stone will come down crushing the orb. And you have to pretty much then run back to the middle to collect the key card. Luckily, the stone locks in place once you grab the key card. As to how does it know to lock in place, I don't know. Magic? Maybe? I don't know. Anyway, if you do this puzzle, make sure that you're near the middle of the area, because you can't just set the orb near the edge of the crushing area. You have to be in the exact middle, which, okay, I guess. But if this sounds tedious to you, well, you're in for a treat, because the next part is where I almost gave up entirely. I don't know if I repeated myself 1,000 times saying that, but whatever. Now, I'll get into who each character are once I get to talking about the story, but Claire's final boss of the game is encountering Steve here. Steve is a friend Claire meets in the beginning of the game. Her and Steve were trying to escape the Antarctic base, and they ended up, getting separated after crashing because of the tentacle monsters. Anyway, so Steve has been shot up with some Hulk virus juice, and he turns into whatever this thing is. And yeah, apparently he wants to kill you, because of course he does. The game's cutscene does highlight that the door will be closing soon, so I immediately assume I had to run towards it before it closes, and and it restarts you back to the beginning of Claire's segment. Okay, so given I had Chris put the Magnum in the security box, one of the strongest guns in this game, literally the power of God in your hands, I thought maybe I had to light this motherfucker up. Just go in, guns ablazing, and pop, 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 pop. So I rearmed myself, rehealed, dealt with that bullshit death trap, and when I got to Steve, I lit that asshole up. And well, yeah, that didn't work either. Apparently you can't kill him. Okay, so there's a button, right? There's a button over here, right? Maybe I need to push the button, I thought. Reheal, reload, bullshit trap puzzle, and nope. Nah, nothing happens. Does nothing, really. So I was kind of right in the beginning. You see, I did have to run away from Steve. That's how you do this. You have to run away from Steve. The thing is though, when you do run from him, he will hit you. And that's a given, I guess. And it takes literally 2 hits for him to kill you. So what you're supposed to do is bring more health items with you so that when you do get hit, you just heal up. How was I supposed to know this? How? I mean, it's not like running from him was a really good strategy to begin with, as when you do run from him, he charges you like really fast, and running away seems nearly impossible. Not to mention his battle axe will hit you from a far distance. So how does this encourage me to run from him? Dude, this game does not give you much to work with sometimes. I'm not saying this game needs to like put yellow paint to guide me through, but it would be nice if it gave me at least some kind of cue or a better feedback loop that tells me that I'm on the right path. It seems like even when I'm on the right path, the game still acts like I'm doing something wrong, and it will punish you for it. Regardless though, I outran him. The game didn't want you to kill him because he will save you during a cutscene after realizing who you are. So because I stupidly assume this game will give me some kind of obvious cue that I'm gonna switch back to Chris, I thought the game would at least give me a chance to put some of my weapons back before I swap to Chris, but no. It doesn't, because right after Claire's bullshit segment, I have to play a bullshit Chris segment. And right away, you have to fight a boss battle. And I gave all my weapons to Claire. Like, every weapons to Claire.
Do you want me to take care of this for you, little boy?
Call it self-inflicted torture, call it pride, call it stupidity. For some odd reason, I didn't quit. I decided to utilize my Groundhog's Day method by going back to a save right before I gave Claire the serum. And so I decided to do a quick sweep of the area, pick up anything I miss, solve any puzzles I didn't do, grab any health items, and this time make sure Chris had the Magnum before fighting the tyrant. So basically it restarts the entire process again. I give Claire the serum, I have to heal her up, load her up, do the bullshit trap puzzle, and then outrun Steve. And you know what? Fuck you, Steve. And finally, when I got to Chris, I put that tyrant down with the power of God in my fucking hands. It also took a few shots from my shotgun, but eventually she did go down. She ends up dropping a gem, and I took that gem, put it in the painting, and left the room. And surprise, surprise, she didn't really die. She gets back up and just leaves. She is the final boss battle, by the way, so it makes sense why she didn't really die. Although, out of curiosity, you know, before I gave Claire the serum, I did notice that there was this painting with some holes that you could stick jewels into. You see, I put 2 of the jewels into the painting, and after fighting the lady, I was able to collect the final jewel to open the secret door. Now, my question is, would the game have screwed me over if I didn't put the other 2 jewels in before fighting her? Game, would you have screwed me over? Capcom, would you screw me over? I gotta say though, this segment was the final segment, and it honestly wasn't that bad. In comparison to all the other segments, it's like they just finally gave you a break. I was on the edge of my seat, but the final stretch was actually probably the most easiest part of the game. No bullshit enemies, no real challenge or stress. I mean, the final boss battle was tough, but honestly, it was manageable. You fight the tyrant one more time, but she morphs into a new monster. Now, I'm sure you Silent Hill fans out there can probably derive some sort of deeper symbolism from this scene, but I don't give a fuck about deeper symbolism right now. I just want to fucking kill this thing. Time to put down lashes, what I'm saying. Pretty much just have to shoot her with a magnum sometimes until she turns into a flying monster. Then you get a rocket launcher and you have to sort of aim within first person, which was kind of stressful, but honestly, not the most difficult. Thank God this thing has unlimited ammo because, dude, I suck at aiming. I really do. I don't play a lot of first person games because I suck at aiming. Like, seriously. Honestly, even though this game was complete bullshit, and it expects way too much out of you, I kind of liked it though. You know, like even if it's one giant beginner's trap and it will punish you for not playing the game before you even played the game for the first time, I still liked it. the game is not bad, and I think honestly it's probably because Code Veronica has some pretty creative puzzles that encouraged me to keep playing, and I wasn't disappointed in that aspect. However, I will say some of the puzzles were just a tad bit too easy, to be honest. Sometimes the answers were just like right there in front of you, like they told you what to do and how to solve it. So there were some pretty unique and creative puzzles within Code Veronica. You guys remember those jewels I was putting into the painting? Well, in order to find one of those jewels, I had to input a code into a control panel. Examining the control panel, you'll find a passage saying something like, Alexa and I are a part of the same coin but different sides, or something like that, and you'll get a vague set of symbols like hearts and crown and stuff. Now, to solve this puzzle, you had to have first found this block. The clue to the puzzle was in the riddle, being a part of the same coin but different sides. Now, if you examine the block, you will see symbols. These symbols match those vague symbols that were given to you when you examine the control panel. Now, going off that clue they gave you, I noticed that the opposite of the heart symbol is the double A's, and the opposite of the crowns is a spade, and so on. So basically what you have to do is you have to input the opposite of the symbol that was given, and I thought that was actually kind of creative, because if I didn't find this block, these symbols would seem random. I mean, the block itself seemed random when I first found it, but knowing that it goes along with this code actually was kind of cool and fun to piece together. And that's the thing about Code Veronica. It's hard for me to really be mad at this game, given that it did such a good job making the puzzles feel creative. I do wish they were a little bit harder though, because I never really felt stumped by any. The only puzzle that I felt like took forever was this sort of flip the right switches in the right order kind of puzzle. It's your basic read the passage and determine how the passage matches these paintings, which have these switches that you have to flip in the right order. I kind of like these puzzles because I like having to decipher an answer from reading text. In fact, Silent Hill 2 had a lot of these riddle-based puzzles that I actually really enjoyed. I will say that while I did enjoy the story, I do kind of find it very messy and kind of has a lot of plot holes that didn't make a whole lot of sense. I had to Google some of this shit. I mean, part of the Resident Evil experience is having to find notes and journal entries all around the game left by various people. Now, finding these things usually kind of piece together some of the plot, as well as provide hints for puzzles later down the line. And it's possible that I missed something, as I tend to do, but I generally feel like some major plot points were not really explained well in this game, especially ones that should have taken more than a few notes to further illustrate characters' motives. Take Steve for example. I'm finally getting to Steve, by the way. I don't know where in Canada they found the voice actor, but holy shit, he sounds like an American trying to mimic a stereotypical Canadian accent.
Sorry about that little misunderstanding, but I thought you were another one of those
Shut up.
Oh, sorry about that, Claire. Didn't mean to turn into a monster and tried to kill ya, eh?
Shut up.
Now, Steve is a vital character that Claire meets on early in the game. Steve has been in prison on this island because his father was some kind of umbrella employee and he like turned into a traitor, and so that got Steve and his entire family locked up. Because I guess Umbrella punishes your family too, I guess. Now, Steve has this kind of weird quirk where that he keeps insinuating to Claire that you can't trust people because eventually they'll all let you down. He kept saying shit like that. Now, Steve does have a reason as to why he doesn't trust people, but I kind of didn't really understand it per se. I mean, he doesn't trust people because of his father. You see, he kind of blames his dad for going against Umbrella and getting him and his mom put in this situation. You know, I understand that because of his father's actions, it led to some disastrous consequences, but is that really a reason not to trust people anymore? I mean, I don't know. The way he acts makes it seem like there should have been a little bit something more to the reason why he doesn't trust people. It kind of comes off as a bit underdeveloped. There is a sad and touching moment where he does have to put down his father. You see his dad was turned into a zombie, unfortunately, and he had to choose between saving Claire or letting his dad live, who's no longer really alive, so he puts his father down and then gives us sort of a bit of a backstory as to why he doesn't trust people. I still feel like they could have developed his trust issues a little bit more deeper. They kind of just skimmed the surface here. Also, what makes no sense about Steve is, like, why does he lecture Claire about how she shouldn't trust anyone, including her own brother, but then he's, like, trusting her within 5 minutes after meeting her? Like, what? I mean, okay, there's some obvious reasons why he trusts Claire. I mean, it doesn't take too much brain power to figure that out. You want to back up there, Bill Cosby? I will say, though, while I didn't really shed a tear for Steve's death, I did thought it was a pretty touching scene. Steve confessed to Claire that he loves her, obviously, while also confirming his trust in people after Claire tells Steve that Chris is on his way and that he's on the island, that he's gonna rescue them. And Steve's all like, I trust people now. And then he died. What I did like about this scene, though, was the fact that it really highlighted how caring Claire is, even for someone she just literally met that day. Claire is a really good character, honestly. Even in Resident Evil 2, she does a good job representing the good found in humanity, even during a pretty messed up situation like a zombie outbreak. Her being kind-hearted is a great contrast to sort of the monsters running around Rockford Island, both the mindless zombies and the functioning ones like Wesker and the Ashford twins. But what I really liked about CODE Veronica is the fact that you got to play both her and her brother Chris. I have a soft spot for stories revolving around siblings, given I have an older brother myself, so it was nice to see a Resident Evil game where the two siblings of the series actually got to share a game with one another. Claire never got to reunite with her brother at the end of Resident Evil 2, so CODE Veronica feels kind of like a follow-up to that quest. Claire's story kicks off looking for Chris in Paris, as for some reason she is seen infiltrating an Umbrella base, dodging gunfire from helicopters, and doing some John Woo shit. Because apparently a 19-year-old college student just knows how to do all this at a whim. So, as cool as her moves are, they are no match for a blow to the back of the head, which then she ends up waking on a mysterious island. She meets one of her captors, who is all wounded. Unfortunately, the base has been overrun by zombies, as an outbreak of the T-virus has started to spread. Now, after running into Steve, Claire and Steve try to make their way off the island. But before she does do that, she sends her coordinates to Leon S. Kennedy in order to send it to Chris, which kind of confused me because how does she know that Leon knows Chris? In fact, how does she know that Leon has any contact with Chris? I mean, this game is supposed to take like 3 months after Resident Evil 2? So when did Leon meet up with Chris? Raccoon City is destroyed, and Leon's first day on the job was the same day the Raccoon City's police department got destroyed. So how did they meet each other again? Again, I enjoy the story, but holy shit, they have a lot of plot holes and things just don't seem to add up. Now, I thought they handled Chris in this game pretty well. They made him kind of your typical big brother, which I really love seeing. Dude is a stand-up guy. He does pretty much everything I would expect an older brother would do in order to save his little sister from danger. The bro climbs up a rocky cliff without any climbing gear. He ends up operating a jet to search for her in the Antarctics. He pretty much does the whole, sacrifice himself in order for her to escape trope, which was nice. I love seeing that. I think Chris taking charge in these dangerous situations also shows off his character pretty well. Like Claire, he's got a pretty good heart and he's willing to sacrifice himself if it means saving the people he loves. Plus, Chris is the action hero in the game. He's the guy. He's the Arnold Schwarzenegger, I do kind of wish we had more games centered around the Redfields, as I think that the brother and sister dynamics would work well with something like Resident Evil 0, where you get to control both characters and you get to switch between them at any time. There is kind of a theme centered around siblings in this game, as the main antagonists of this game are both Alfred and Alexia Ashford. You know, I find that Chris and Claire represents a more normal sibling relationship. Nothing really creepy about these two. In contrast, the Ashford twins are kind of fucking creepy, almost borderline incest-like relationship. Okay, they don't do anything incest per se, but Alfred sure as hell seems pretty obsessed with his sister. He speaks of her as some kind of queen, some kind of goddess that should be worshipped. I don't suppose that's really sexual in nature, but it's still pretty weird. To be fair though, Alexia would have to be more of the antagonist of the game, as you actually do fight her. Alfred just kind of sends monsters after Claire, and he just, acts all intimidating and crazy. Most of your interaction with Alfred was through cutscenes, like he gets shot by Steve, and then, that's the end of him. Pretty lame. Both twins are a part of the Ashford family, a family that comes from some kind of wealth and power. From what I understand, Alexia and Alfred's quote-unquote grandpa was one of the founders of Umbrella Corp, and somehow the twins' quote-unquote father ruined the family from achieving higher success. How he did that, I kind of don't really understand, but apparently this forced Alexia to sort of take it upon herself to reclaim the Ashford's name, and by doing that she planted a virus known as the CODE Veronica virus inside of her own body. Anyway, she puts herself in some kind of coma for like 15 years so that the virus can run its course through her body and not cause her to be some kind of mindless zombie. The goal of all of this, besides, family honor and stuff, is that she pretty much wanted to become a god and rule the world. So, your basic bad guy plot. If you're ever lost with me explaining the plot, do note that I had to actually kind of Google some of this stuff because I found the plot kind of messy in the game, and I had to double check if I was right on some stuff. And I found out via Wikipedia that apparently Alexia and Alfred are actually clones. I don't remember them explaining that in the game, but yeah, these two are clones. See, their, quote-unquote father, Alexander, decided to clone his ancestor, Veronica. Veronica was head of the family during the Ashford's glory days, so to Alexander, it made sense to clone the one that brought sort of honor and glory to his family name. Anyway, Alexander worked on this cloning project for Umbrella, and unfortunately though, unlike Alexander's father, Alexander wasn't really that great at what he did. Even though he was able to make clones, he apparently still wasn't as good. I don't get it, but whatever. Apparently he wasn't as good. So he kind of just faded into obscurity along with the Ashford's family legacy. So to make it up, Alexander created the clones Alexia and Alfred. Now, Alexia was some kind of highly intelligent super being, as she was able to lock down a job with Umbrella at the age 10. She ended up working on the Veronica virus at 12. And by the way, that boss Nosferatu? Well, that guy is Alexander. You see, Alexia experimented on her own father. He was one of the first test subjects for the Veronica virus. I also kind of feel bad for Nosferatu. I mean, imagine your 12-year-old daughter shooting you up with a virus and turning you into a monster, and then locking you up underground in some Antarctic facility for 15 years. Dude, that would suck. These two twins are freaking nutters, and it's even weirder because Alfred not only worships his sister, but he can become his sister sometimes. He just has a dual personality disorder or something, and he just becomes Alexia, dresses like her and everything. Apparently he's unaware of it, but then he becomes aware of it, but then he's like, I don't care. But it was shocking as well. I don't know, the guy's a little off his rockers is what I'm saying. Anyway, Alexia was released from her bathtub tank by Alfred after getting shot by Steve. He then dies, and she's all like, "Aw, poor brother." Anyway, off to murder some Redfields and rule the world. Also, Alexia apparently is stronger than Wesker. Even though he's all jacked up on steroids as well, apparently he's no match for Alexia as she spanks his ass. And then he ends up running like a little bitch.
Chris, since you're one of my best men, I'll let you handle this.
Dude, Wesker was one part intimidating in this game, and then he just stopped being intimidating after being defeated by Alexia. Wesker's plot is pretty much explained at the end of the game. You see, he's been working with Umbrella's rival company, some kind of mysterious organization trying to steal and sabotage Umbrella research. They're the ones who released the T virus on the island in order for Wesker to infiltrate it and steal Alexa's body so that they can steal the T Veronica virus from her. Of course, he sucks ass and and was too late to do so as she was released from her bantha take because he's too busy dinking around trying to kill Chris. But luckily for him, Steve over here was turned into a monster by Alexia, so he ends up just taking Steve's body. I guess we can say Chris beat him. They ended up being separated by fire. They just kind of stare at each other and then go their separate ways. And yeah, that kind of covers Code Veronica's messy plot. Sorry if it was a little discombobulated. You know, there's a whole lot going on, but not a whole lot explained, if that makes sense. I find myself more invested in the characters that inhabit the game. Given that this is a Claire and Chris story, I found myself more focused on how Chris and Claire were going to deal with this situation and how they were going to escape, more so than how the story progressed, if that made any sense. Same with the other Resident Evil games, you know, I'm more focused on how Jill's going to escape or what Rebecca's going to do rather than what's really going on. I mean, what's going on is important, but I really liked focusing on more of the characters. Still though, this story in general could have been a little bit more clearer. All in all, Code Veronica could have easily been one of my favorite Resident Evil games if it wasn't so held back by that bullshit difficulty. A very unforgiving game that honestly didn't need to be so rough on the players. Constant beginners traps, the unnecessary swarm of enemies, and difficulty spikes with the bosses. And I kind of really hate that this game punished you for being over prepared or not prepared enough. I don't know, it's a weird mix. Apparently though, the Japanese version of Code Veronica did include an easy mode and a very, very easy mode. As to why America didn't get this little bitch mode, I don't know. I have no idea if Code Veronica will ever get a remake, and part of me doesn't want one because I don't like remakes, but I don't know. Instead of a remake, how about we get like the Japanese version, but with the English dubbing, you know? So I can play the little bitch mode. While I don't think that this is the worst game I've ever played in my life, nor do I think it's the worst Resident Evil game, honestly. I just personally don't know if I'll ever replay this game. Maybe one day. I do wonder if replaying the game, now that I know all the bullshit, will make the experience go a lot better. But I do like certain parts of the games. The puzzles are pretty solid. I enjoy navigating the different unsettling environments. If you're watching this and you were fine with all the spoilers and whatnot, and you still want to play this game, but you've never played a Resident Evil game ever, I would recommend starting not with this game. I would recommend playing the first remake, as the graphics and art direction are just better, and it gives you a taste of what to expect from the series. It has a more slow-paced survival experience than Veronica, and the atmosphere in exploring the mansion is a bit more on the spookier side. A weird way, I kind of find the first game to be a bit relaxing. Code Veronica is better suited for people who want a bit more of a challenge, and for those who have played at least 1 through 3 and maybe 0, it's not a game for beginners is what I'm saying. Alright, okay, so thanks for sticking around till the end. I hope you really enjoyed this video as I enjoyed putting it together, although I will say it took quite a long time to edit for some odd reason. I don't know why. I procrastinate, as always. But thanks as always for sticking around to the end. I hope you really liked this video, as I really appreciate you guys watching my videos. So let's end this video with another look at some art created by me. As we can see, Claire is being attacked by the tentacle monster. So I just want to note, the tentacle monster I thought had an eye, but I don't think they do. I for some reason thought the tentacle monsters had eyes. I don't think they do. I don't know where I got that idea from. I thought there was a cutscene. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. I don't know. Either way, she's being attacked by the tentacle monster, and she's looking back behind her because there's 2 other monsters ready to munch down on her. Not in a fun way. We have a zombie, and we have Nosferatu all chained up, and this heart chest bulge thing is just sticking out. Claire, of course, is holding the power of God in her hands. The revolver, which was modeled after, I think, Dirty Harry's gun. It's not the same revolver found in the game, or it's not the same Magnum found in the game. It's actually just modeled after Dirty Harry's gun, I think. I was watching Dirty Harry during this while I was making this, so that's kind of where that idea came from. But yeah, the entire art piece itself is heavily inspired by a Dreamcast case. I've been wanting to get into recreating cover art for older video games. That's kind of where that inspiration came from, is to just redesign like an old video game cover. I decided to render it with a more cel-shaded sort of coloring style, along with a more comic booky outline. So yeah, this project was fun. I do enjoy nice homages to older media. So yeah, that kind of explains the art. I hope you enjoy it. If you want to see more artwork, I have a portfolio, which I will link in the description. So yeah, this finishes off Code Veronica. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Yeah, we got nothing more else to say. Thank you as always for watching. I'll see you in my next video.